Welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live. We're nearing the end of the season, week 18. Most of you are done with your fantasy seasons. We'll be breaking down very important games this week. Maybe you're still playing fantasy. Maybe you're playing DFS. Maybe you're prop betting. Hey, got a lot of options here, so we can get you covered here. Maybe gambling games. We should get you covered. Bottom of the hour, we have Adam Thompson of bookies.com coming in, go over 4 or 5 games and give his betting profiles on those. All right, remember now, follow me on the X at Jim Coventry NFL. I'll have playoff content throughout the postseason. Also, this show will be running. It won't be running every day during the season. You can check my X profile as to the schedule, but it'll definitely get you some pre-game matchups for the NFL playoffs, get you all set for that. We'll have a big Super Bowl guide coming out about a week and a half before the Super Bowl, a betting guide, a game strategy guide, get you ready to be very, very profitable on Super Bowl Sunday. All right, I'm going to be playing SuperDraft for the Week 18 games, but I am focusing on one game. The Saturday game, Indianapolis, Houston. That game, I am expecting some offensive fireworks. The 3 plays I'm going to take on SuperDraft. CJ Stroud to go over 259.5 passing yards. Now, Stroud is facing this Indy defense. Gus Bradley's a defensive coordinator. It's a cover 3 defense. Over the season, when Stroud's faced this type of zone, he has done extremely well. And actually against the Colts in week 2, 384 yards. On the season, as I said, when Stroud faced this type of defense, those have been his better games of the year. Now, quarterbacks, remember, you need 260 yards for Stroud to cash. These are the quarterbacks who have gone over 260 yards against the Colts. Aiden O'Connell, Jake Browning, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, and then Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. So this has been an easy number to hit for many quarterbacks. Stroud himself, he has gone over that 259.5 pass yards in 5 of his last 6 full games. He was injured in 1 game and didn't finish. Can't really hold that against him. Next, let's stack him up, pair him up, if you will. Nico Collins only has to go over 74.5 yards here. Now, Collins against this exact defense in week 2, 146 yards. Now, Indy has given up at least 75, which is the number we need, to a top receiver in half of their games. None of those Indy cornerbacks match up with Collins' skill set. And like I said, with the quarterback facing cover 3, it's a very easy scheme for Bobby Slowick's offense to exploit with that number 1 receiver, the way they scheme him open quickly on the slants, even down the perimeter when they need to. Noah Brown's out. We know Tank Dell's been out for over a month. So targets are going to Nico Collins, and there really isn't much from a personnel standpoint and a schematic standpoint that the Colts could do to slow Collins. Finally, other side of the ball, let's go to Michael Pittman, over 79.5 receiving yards. Now, since week 9, 7 different receivers have gone over 80 or more yards against this defense. Amari Cooper just lit him up for 265. Garrett Wilson for $108. And this year with that quarterback play, that was an accomplishment. Pittman has at least 84 yards in 4 of his last 5 full games. He got hurt in 1 early. He would have sailed over in that game as well against Pittsburgh. Now, Pittman only had 56 yards when the teams met in the first game. But remember, we'll talk about this when I preview that game. That was the game where Anthony Richardson got knocked out. Gardner Minshew came in. It was discombobulated. So we are going very strong to that game. So again, for SuperDraft, it's going to be CJ Stroud over, Nico Collins over receiving, Michael Pittman over. If you want to play SuperDraft, here's our promotion. When you sign up with the promo code ROTO, you'll get a free leg to your parlay and a $20 deposit bonus with a first-time deposit of $20 or more. There's also a discount on Thursday nights, but that will probably be put up till next season because there's no more Thursday night games, but you can still win up to 100 extra entry. If you want to swing for the fence, lottery style, SuperDraft has a progressive jackpot. You make 12 picks, you get them all right, and you win an epic growing jackpot. Last I checked, it was over 20 grand. All right, don't forget, you want more fantasy football coverage. I will be on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Channel, Saturday, 1 to 3 Eastern with Mario Puig, Sunday, 9 to 10 Eastern with Alan Soslowski. Catch you there. We will do a start-sit stream, so to speak, on Sunday at 11 a.m. on this channel where you're watching. Obviously, not many of you in Fantasy Labs. I'll answer any questions you have for football. Uncle Ted wants to know if we'll cover fantasy baseball. Personally, no. I'm football only 365. But we have, my opinion, and look, I'm not just plugging RotoWire here, okay? We have the best fantasy baseball team on the planet. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to miss somebody. The quality of baseball analysis we have, bar none, top of the mountain. I'm just focused on football. I used to be a baseball analyst. I thought I was pretty good at it, but football is where I want to focus my energy. If you want to check out RotoWire for free, our baseball coverage is already getting out there, right? It's January. Go to rotowire.com/Jim. No credit card need, a couple days of access behind the paywall. Check it out. All right. Remember, bottom of the hour, we got Adam Thompson coming in, but let's talk about these big, high-profile games. Oh, Uncle that Jeff. Oh, yeah, Jeff Erickson. Yep, he is dope on Sundays. He is. Jeff just rolls with baseball. He is the GOAT of baseball. All right, Texans, Colts. Obviously, this is a win and in game for this. So this is a playoff game. Not a skip, week 18, but it's a playoff game. Loser goes home. Winner makes the playoffs. Now, the winner could win the South if Jacksonville loses to Tennessee, which is a real possibility. But otherwise, at least one of these teams is in as a wild card. Now, the Texans are a 1-point favorite on the road. All right, so the betting line is going to move a little bit. It's around 47.5. They're expecting a higher scoring game than what we've seen this year, and I think that's going to be in line. And week 2. Now, remember, I'll talk about that week 2 matchup just for reference. It was a long time ago. These teams are different, but that was a game the Colts won 31-20. The Colts through 3 quarters were up 31-10. So it was a Colts blowout. Remember, this is a game where Anthony Richardson got knocked out. He threw 10 passes, completed 6. He ran in 2 touchdowns. Gardner Minshew comes in, goes 19-23 for $171, throws a touchdown. Zach Moss was the running back then. Remember, Taylor was on the PUP list. He went 18 for 88, scored a touchdown, 4 catches for 19. I said earlier at Pittman, wasn't a big game. He got targeted 12 times, went 8 for 56, but the change in quarterbacks, that was not anticipated. Josh Downs, it was one of his down games, 4 for 37, but that's who he's been now in the last 6 weeks. But after that game, he had been playing really well for fantasy. On the Texan side, like I said, that cover 3 defense is not a problem for CJ Stroud. It's a perfect match for him. He threw 47 passes in that game. Remember, they were getting blown out, completed 30 of them. But again, it was big play city, 384. Now, remember, Tank Dell was obviously playing way back then. He's been out for like almost a month. He went 7 for 72 in a touchdown. So it wasn't like a crazy game, but it was Collins. Nico Collins had the game, 7 for $146, and he scored on 9 targets. Again, I expect that connection to be really heavy in this game. Robert Woods was a factor in that game, 6 for 74 on 9 targets. Now Noah Brown's out. So I do think Woods, he won't maybe match that game, but Robert Woods should see some activity in this one. Dalton Schultz went 4 for 34 on 7 targets in that game. He could do a bit better, but that's probably reasonable. The running game didn't get going. Now, the Colts defense against the run was much better early in the season. Pierce and Singletary were splitting the carries back then. They went 19 for 45, so it was 2.5 yards a carry. That was about it. That was all they got. Now, the Indy run defense has fallen apart since. So I don't know that's how the Texans want to attack, but that's more available to them in this game than it was that go around. The way I look at this game is I just see a lot of scenarios where this shoots out. Jonathan Greenard on the defensive line is still out for the Texans. That's a big loss. They are very dinged up. Will Anderson's fine now and playing, but I don't think he's 100%. So I think those issues on the defensive line are a little problematic for them. And the Texans' offensive line has protected the pass game well for CJ Stroud. For the most part, they've been very effective this year. And the Colts can get some pressure, but I don't think it's going to be anything that line can't handle. And again, with the zone looks, you're going to get a lot of defined stuff, not a lot of post-snap trickeration. So I think this sets up very well. I think the Colts are able to move the ball very well on the Texans. I was saying the Texans are beat up on the line. So I do think Gardner Minshew has really played under control in Shane Steichen's offense. Shane Steichen is a mastermind of setting up offense. The fact he's seen this defense in its basic form, it's morphed over the year. But I think Steichen will always continue to have great game plans. The run defense for Houston has been very good this year. Last year, they were one of the worst. This year, they're very solid, but you can attack them through the air. And I do think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see, Jonathan Taylor's going to get some run here, of course. He'll get some screen passes. Not expecting a huge game out of him. But again, I think they're going to be able to get the tight ends open. They use a rotation of them. Don't expect Drew Ogletree. He's on a commissioner exemplar, so we're not going to see your Ogletree. But they have a rotation of tight ends they're using. And again, Jelani Woods been out all season with the hamstring, so we won't see him. But it'll be a combination of Will Mallory and Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox blocks a lot, but he's a red zone factor. So never know which one of those three is going to come through, but I think they're going to be involved. Big Michael Pittman game. Josh Downs, again, it is reported that he had dealing with a knee injury since OTAs, and we've seen since he re-injured that about week 9 or 10, he really hasn't been the same guy since. So he'll be in there. And Alec Pierce, just, maybe they throw a bomb to him, but can't really count him. He plays every snap, but not much going on. But I think in that game, we are still expecting both teams to have a lot of success offensively. I would lean toward betting the over on this one. In terms of who's going to win the game, I'm going to bet on CJ Stroud. I don't think that defensively the Colts are going to have a game plan to limit him. I think there's a lot of scenarios, even if they fall behind, where Stroud could bail them out. I think the Colts are going to have some limitations. I think the fact that the Texans in the rematch, not that they saw everything Steichen wanted to do, because remember, it was an Anthony Richardson game, but I think they'll have enough answers. I think this is a fun game to watch. I would like it in a teaser leg better. If you get a teaser leg, you could either take the Colts at +7, which is not bad. If you like the other side, if you tease it, you would get the Texans at +5 and the 6-point teaser. So that would not be a bad way to go. If you were just teasing 2 legs of that game, which I usually don't like to tease the over and unders, but if you move them from 47.5 down to 41.5 and went over, I think there's a great probability. You could take either side of that 6-point teaser. I think that game is close enough. I do prefer the Texan side at +5 though, because I don't really see a world where Indy blows them out. Just don't really see that happening. I think that'd be the better side to go. Whereas on the other side, I like less the Colts +7 on the teaser leg, because I don't think that there's a world where the Texans could blow them out. I don't think it'll happen, but there's a world where that happens. All right, next game, Bills at Dolphins, Sunday Night Football. I went through both of these are major games, obviously. They both have huge implications, so you could have gone either one first. Bills at the Dolphins, Sunday Night Football. Bills, 3-point favorite. Over and under is 50 on this one. I like the under, and I'm going to tell you that right now. The under would probably be the best bet for this one. It's going to be interesting. Now, so we know right now how it stands. The winner takes the AFC East and the number 2 seed. That's huge, because whoever wins this game, you would be at home, other than if you played the Ravens. Any other game you play, you'd be at home. That's massive. Tom, I appreciate you being here. And yes, thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know if you check it in the offseason, but I will put on my X at Jim Coventry NFL. I will do off-season shows, probably a couple a week. If you're able to make it, great. There's always a replay, but love to have you. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So in this game, like I said, the winner takes the number 2 seed. Now, obviously the Dolphins are in the playoffs. The Bills, not necessarily. If Pittsburgh wins, I think it was Pittsburgh wins, Jacksonville wins, and the Bills lose, the Bills are out altogether. So here's the thing for the Bills. They'll know before the game if they have to win to make the playoffs. Obviously, they can win the East if they win, but they could be completely out of the playoffs of those other 2 scenarios. And in week 18, rule nothing out, but at least they'll know their fate, because the game would add an extended level of urgency for the Bills if it was a lose and out of the playoffs deal. So be cognizant of that. If I'm betting this game, I may even wait till those early games are done to see that level of urgency go up. Because if you're leaning, obviously the Bills are going to go all out anyway, but if you have the cushion of knowing that you're in the playoffs, it could take a little of that. Again, talk about the subliminal switch all the time, right? That subliminal switch is a little bit different if you know you've got the safety net of you're in the playoffs. So if there's a case where it sets up they have to win to make the playoffs, I think that makes that bet a little bit stronger, because it's going to be, they may pull out more stops in that situation. Now, the first meeting, remember, this was in Buffalo. The Bills throttled them. It wasn't a contest, 48-20, and it wasn't even that close. Josh Allen, 5 total touchdowns. He ran one in. And they didn't run for many yards, and he hasn't run for a ton of yards this year. 17 rush yards in that game. He threw for 320. Now, full disclosure, right? Jalen Ramsey was obviously injured and didn't play till November. And Vic Fangio's defense takes time to learn. And it definitely was nowhere where it was then. Now, on the other hand, they are without their 2 best pass rushers for this game. Jalen Phillips was there all season. Bradley Chubb, they played in a meaningless, such part of the game, tore his ACL. two best pass rushers are out. That could hurt them. Dalvin Cook was not a factor on the ground, 12 for 29 in a touchdown. However, they have used him much differently. A little more downhill running, a lot more motion in the receiving game for him. He did catch a 48-yard pass. So the way Dalvin Cook was utilized is way different. So with Dalvin Cook being used much differently now, that will be fun to see how he does better than that 12 carry for 29 that he had last time. Now, Stephon Diggs was a major factor in that game. 6 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if he's had that in his aggregate in his last 5 games, Adam Thompson. And Diggs is not even playing all the snaps. When I look at the snap counts, it's about 60% per game. There is something going on here. Obviously, we don't know the full story of it, but this is not the Bills team that throttled Miami 48-20. From the offensive side for the Bills, Adam, and welcome in. Again, James Cook is used a lot differently. I think there's advantages there. I mentioned earlier the pass rushers. Bradley Chubb's out. Jalen Phillips, they both are lost for the season. But opposed to the last matchup, they do have Jalen Ramsey now. How are you looking at the offensive side of the ball for the Bills?
Yeah, Diggs destroyed this team when they played, but that was a long time ago. Like you said, six for 120 and 3 touchdowns. I think Jalen Ramsey is going to take it personal this time, and I think that's probably the route that Miami is going to need to go to stick with him, which I think hopefully means Gabe Davis. His totals of 37.5. He's we talked about this last week. He's about as high risk, high reward guy as there is out there. I mean, in his last 5 games, he has over 100 yards in 2 of them and got blanked in 2 of them. So, and he's playing snaps, so it's not like he's not out there either. He's leading the team in a snap percentage. So just a bizarre scenario. But I think Diggs is probably not going to do what he did last time, and I think Davis, he only had 3 catches last week, but for 61 yards. So he's a big play chunk guy. I think his total 34.5 or 36.5. I like the over on him.
And that 61 yards that you mentioned last week, he had that in the first meeting between these teams, 3 for 61 and a touchdown in that meeting. So very similar there. So nice little trend we have. Now, Miami, look, I'm worried about them offensively because we have seen it. When defenses that are familiar with Tua, and when we know that defenses are smartly coached, Vic Fangio, check that box. Tua, you want to flood the middle of the field. You want to make him throw to the outside. He is not a great quarterback throwing to the outsides. Also, there are teams that have tried to play coverage where they front the receiver and make Tua feather it over. Tua can't make that pass. He cannot consistently feather a ball. Now, not as many teams have tried it this year as last year, but look, Tua may have had 282 yards in that last game, 1 touchdown, and it was not that impressive a performance. Tyreek, 3 for 58. That's all he had. And this is a case where the Bills know what they want to do with him. And that's when they were trying newer things with Tyreek. They were trying that half-field motion, which that was new. They still were able to slow him down. Jalen Waddle, 4 for 40. He hasn't practiced yet. He missed last week. They said it was a high ankle. They wouldn't qualify. But to me, he seems like he's on the wrong side. Now, here's the interesting in the running game, Adam. Mostert got shut down, 7 for 9. He did catch 3 for 36, but Achane, again, nobody knew who he was. He got 8 carries, a $101 and 2 touchdowns. So Achane went off. Now, familiarity, seeing him, that could change. Big news for Buffalo. Daquan Jones, their interior lineman, is back. He had been an IR. He missed a couple months, maybe a little longer. That's a big part of their run defense. Is Miami going to struggle, even though they're at home moving the ball, or are they going to be okay?
I think they're going to have issues. For a lot of the reasons you just said. And I think they're going to be missing some key players. It'll be interesting to see, if they punt this game. You don't think they will, but, a 2 seed versus a 5 seed, that's a home game versus a away game. But either way, you're playing next week. And if they have all these banged up players, Mostert, Waddle, among others, Tua even, I think Tua's going to play, but he's nursing a bunch of injuries. I think at some point they might just decide, all right, look, we're in the playoffs. We need these guys for next week. We're going to give Buffalo this one, and we'll see him again later.
And Angelo points out Josh Allen's shoulders affecting his accuracy and ability. They haven't even been throwing much, and they they're running when they can. There were 2 games. before last week, it was like 15 and 21 attempts is all they had, but they were playing good football with that, integrating James Cook. This game against Miami, it'll be interesting to see. And we don't really know, is it a situation with Allen where the shoulder's getting better? Is it a situation where it's in the shape it's going to be? So we really don't know what's going on with this. That's a variable. Is there any way to quantify it, or Adam?
No, but they found their success to winning, and it's not throwing the ball. And
Yes.
part of it might be Josh Allen just can't make those throws right now, but they've won 4 straight. I think he's averaging, just over 215, 220 yards a game. Passing hasn't gone over about 245 in any of the wins. And you talk about from a sports betting perspective, his over-under is well over that. And he hasn't hit any of these numbers. So I think, combined with, their winning formula now is feed Cook, and Josh Allen has 8 rushing touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. So he is killing teams at the right moments with his legs. So I think they're going to continue that. They're going to continue to feed Cook. Miami's going to do a better job on Diggs. And all of that kind of spells kind of fewer passing yards for Allen. I still think Buffalo might win this game, but I'm actually not touching either side.
Nope.
For this one. I like the under on points.
That's where I was going to ask you. Yes.
Yeah, I like the under. I think it's trending under for both sides anyway. The last 4 games that Buffalo has won to get back into this playoff hunt, they've all finished under 48 points. This total is about 48.5. 4 of the last 5 games, I think, for Miami that have had this high of a total have finished under. Same thing for the Bills. So I think if anybody sits due to injury, it's going to be offensive players more so than defensive players, I think. So that trend's even more under. So yeah, it's all about under, getting out healthy, and we'll see you next week.
And people are going to see that first meeting, 68 points. Yeah, not here. Not here. Nope. With Adam, I like the under. Hey, as always, we bring in Adam Thompson. And, Adam, he has been the handicapper that you want to listen to. You learn from Adam. Adam's a documented winner, been doing this for a long time. I always say watch who you get your gambling advice from. Adam Thompson is one of the go-tos that you definitely want to find. He'll tell you where you can find his work at the end of the show. Adam, we're going to start out Vikings Lions. I'll preface this a little, but I do think the Lions have a lot to play for, because if the Cowboys and the Eagles lose, and you can't take it for granted, they're going to win. They're divisional games. And if the Lions win, they get the number 2 seed. That is a massive, massive deal. They would be the number 3 seed otherwise, but that would mean their second round game could be at home. And look, the Cowboys, no lock to beat the Commanders. We saw it last year in week 18. The Commanders kicked their tails. The Eagles, right, I'm not confident of beating anybody. So I think Dan Campbell has to go in this game playing to win. Now, before I break down the Viking, here's the Viking side. The Vikings are also playing for the playoffs. They have to win. They need a Green Bay loss, a Seattle loss, and a Tampa Bay loss. There's another scenario as well that includes a New Orleans loss instead of a Tampa Bay loss. So there are scenarios. Now, it's an early game, so they will not know their fate. So they will have – it's a small percentage chance, but they are playing to win. Now, Adam, before I talk about the last meeting between these teams, anything about the playoff scenarios and how they'll approach it? Do they both go all out, or is there a chance the Lions don't?
I hope the Lions go out. And I think Dan Campbell seems like a coach that will go all out, or even if they do bring in some backups, those guys will go all out. But yeah, they still have a lot to play for. You don't want to go to Dallas or Philly in the second round. You want to bring those guys to your den, especially if you're Detroit. You haven't been there. You have not been a successful franchise in a very long time. Let's maximize it and bring teams to us. So yeah, I think they have a lot to play for. And Minnesota obviously is playing for their playoff lives, and they need a lot of help. And every indication that I've watched them last week, that offense get shut down by a pretty bad Packers defense. I have a lot of red flags if I'm the Vikings. -3 almost suggests that odds makers think that Detroit's going to kind of not go all in on winning this game, but I'll go all in on Detroit winning this game at -3.
Now, before you break it down a little more, the first meeting, this was 2 weeks ago. This was at Minnesota. The Lions did win 30-24. Now, Jared Goff, it was road Goff. Completion percentage was fine, 75%, but 1 touchdown. And that's kind of the road Goff thing. But they ran it really well. Gibbs and Montgomery, 32 carries for $135 and 3 touchdowns. They got it done. The only receiver who did well was St. Brown, 12 for $106. They held down Sam Laporta, 3 for 18, while St. Brown 8 in the middle of the field. Now, Minnesota, that was the game. Nick Mullins, where Nick Mullins from a fantasy standpoint was great. 411 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a 4-pick game. And from an NFL standpoint, that got him benched for the next game where Jaron Hall had started after that. He was bad. Ty Chandler, because of game script, 8 carries, but he was only 17 yards. He was never going to run against that defense. That defense is insurmountable. Jefferson, 141 yards and a touchdown. That's the game where TJ Hockenson, though, he tore his ACL in the second half. Yeah. Jordan Addison left early with an ankle injury, so they were not at full health. Mullins will start this game. Adam, go ahead and tell us how you break this one down.
Yeah, Mullins is such a high-risk, high-reward guy, but he's going to make the mistakes, and now you're going on the road. And I just don't, I was really disappointed when he came into the game in the second half last week against Green Bay and did really nothing. I was expecting him to just kind of sling it and be that guy, and maybe he will now that he gets a week again to prepare. But at Detroit against this defense, they're going to bring pressure. They're going to be after him. He did not handle it well last week. And I just think it's going to be, if Detroit comes and plays, I don't know how Minnesota keeps up, because I don't think the run game is going to do a whole lot. I think Detroit, once they get that lead, they can run the ball. Minnesota's, not good at stopping that. We saw that last week. We saw that against Detroit too, last time out. So -3, I like Detroit to get it done at home there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite calls of the week. I had to write the article for RotoWire on that game. And Adam, my best bets, I got 11. No, is it 10 in a row? 10 in a row now. So I'm 13-4 on the season on those. And my last one, I had to cover this game, and I went with you. I went with Detroit -3 on that one. I'm hoping to end the season on a high note. My preseason, where I had to write through the player totals, right now I'm sitting at 6-2. I got the Bears getting the balance. If the Packers win, I could pick up a win there. And I got the Steelers playoff one. So I'll still finish at worst 6-4, but hopefully it ends up 8-2. But definitely had all those articles published and was looking be successful. It's been a good season. Let's get to the next game, Adam. So this one has no playoff implications. Jets at Patriots, but the Patriots have been playing very improved football since Bill Belichick said he was not going to be with the team anymore. They played much better. Jets keep playing well on defense, inspired defense. Obviously, the offense is what it is. We'll choose Trevor Siemian again. Tell us what you think about this game.
Yeah, it's Bill Belichick's last game, and the Patriots are going to play hard for him. They don't want him going out on a whimper, setting a new loss record in their last game against a rival Jets team that they beat 15 straight times. Yes. And the Jets, meanwhile, they look like a team that just doesn't care anymore. They're just writing out the season. Like, this season was supposed to be a Super Bowl year for the Jets, and it's been the complete opposite. Obviously, quarterback play has been a massive part of that. But now the defense, the past 3 weeks, they've allowed 30, 28, and 37 points. This Jets defense has, and a lot of that is quarterback play, and the offense is not setting them up at all for success. But now even that isn't working. The Patriots should take care of business here. I mean, Trevor Siemian, he has 2 touchdowns in 4 games. How are they going to move the ball against this defense that's been great all year, and like you said, has been playing even better down the stretch in games that don't even matter. So you show up in games that don't matter. Plus Bailey Zappi, this might be his career right here. This game, if he's going to play ever again, he needs to kind of go out on a high note for this season to give whoever's the coach or wherever he is an opportunity. So, this one's for Bill. -1.5 is the number. I think Patriots all day.
I'm looking at the team totals here, and for the Jets, I could go under 14.5 at -110. I love your bet with them. If somebody was looking to pair it up, is that reasonable, or do you think that's a little ambitious? Jets under 14.5.
It's going to be a low-scoring game, and how are they going to score 2 touchdowns? They might score 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. I guess that's possible. That'll get them to 16. That might be your bet. That might be your biggest worry. But Dalvin Cook's already gone. Half the team is mentally checked out. They're out the door already. I think New England at home, especially, the Jets don't have to worry about getting booed off the field if they stink. It's all set up for a 28-6 blowout. And
yes.
Belichick, he would get carried off on shoulders if he allowed that, which he won't.
Right, exactly. He might break a hip or something. oh my gosh! Think about all the times he was carried off with like rings and trophies, and being carried off after like a 6-win season or something.
Carry him all the way out to LA.
One of my preseason bets was the Jets under 7.5 wins, and so pretty safe there. But they made a nice little run there. But anyway, next game, Falcons Saints. Now Saints, unless the lines change, 3.5 point favorites. Have you seen anything different than that? Is it moved?
That's what it is now. Yeah,
3.5. All right. So New Orleans and Atlanta, whoever wins would make the playoffs if Tampa Bay loses. So for either of them, it's a win and Tampa lost an in. New Orleans has an extra path to get in, whereas if they won, Seattle lost to the Cardinals, possible. Green Bay loses to the Bears, very possible, not probable, but possible. So New Orleans has an extra path in, but again, they both are highly motivated to win. Now, these teams played in Week 12, Adam. This was a 24-15 Falcons win. Falcons at home play better. The Saints, 5 field goals, no touchdown. It was the Derek Carr game. He throws for 300 yards and no touchdowns. Oh my gosh. Alvin Kamara, though, 119 total yards. He is in danger of not playing. He hurt his ankle, so we'll see what games that goes out of that. Chris Olave, 114 yards, strong game. Juwan Johnson, he had an injury that missed a little bit of time, 4 for 45. He's been hot down the stretch since then. Other than that, Taysom Hill, he had about 75, 80 yards in that one. Falcons, even though they were at home, Desmond Ridder, 168 yards and 2 picks, not good. The running backs did well, though, Adam. They shredded them. 34 carries for $198. All three were involved. Bijan, Algier, Cordell Patterson. London, we stay at home. He plays well. 5 for 91 in that game. Pitts did nothing. But this time, they're in New Orleans. Tell us how this game shakes out.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder had a horrible game, but he's gone. And hopefully Taylor Heineke can offer a little more stability at the position. Now, if you take last week's game against Chicago, when he threw 3 picks, looked terrible. Hopefully he can shake that off. This one's in a dome. I like Atlanta plus 3.5. That's a key number. I like that number. The Saints are just 2-5 against the spread at home this year. 6-1 when they're favored by 4.5 points or less. So they're not really, and that's kind of Derek Carr's MO wherever he's been. But you mentioned Alvin Kamara. I think that's a big loss. The run game and the pass game for New Orleans. So yeah, I think Atlanta. As long as Heineke doesn't do anything dumb, keep handing the ball off, keep it close. Plus 3.5. I think Atlanta can certainly win this game, but I'm not going to pick that straight up because of the location. Atlanta is a far better team at home, but this game is in a dome. But I like Atlanta plus 3.5.
That hook is important, I think. Getting that hook is nice. So would you prefer jump on it now? Because if there is a chance that line gets bet down to 3, if it's at 3, would you view it differently?
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta, in their last 8 games, they're 3-5 straight up, but 4 of those 5 losses have been by 4 points or less. So they're not getting blown out. They're losing games by field goals, basically. And they could certainly lose this game by a field goal as well. So plus 3.5, I would just jump on that now. Plus 4 would be nice. Plus 3 would be way less nice. So I'd be happy with plus 3.5.
So the next game we have the Seattle, and as they're at Arizona. The line was 3.5. It's down to, it was 2.5. It's up to 3 right now. So there is some money coming in on the Seattle side here. Now, Seattle, they make the playoffs if they win and the Packers lose to the Bears. And both of those games are played at 4:25 Eastern, so they won't have knowledge in their game while they're playing. So they'll be, they'll have full motivation. Now, week 7, which is an eternity ago, these teams played. The Seahawks won 20-10. But in that game, understand, no Kyler Murray, no James Conner for the Arizona side. Zach Ertz was still stealing tight end targets from Trey McBride. And on the other side, DK Metcalf missed that game. Zach Charbonnet also didn't play. Not that it was a major factor, as Ken Walker obviously dominated touches. So it was really not a game to take much away with in this case. Arizona, they came out and they took care of business. Physical running style. A lot of 2 tight end sets at them. They took it to the Eagles. They were running duo. They were running counter. And James Conner was just eating. Well, yeah. Seattle has some names. They're not tackling well at any level of the field. Seattle, on the other hand, when their offense gets rolling, they're fun to watch. In Arizona, not much pass rush, not much ability to cover, not good against the run, but they're at home. How do you see it?
Yeah, typically I'm not backing teams with nothing to play for against teams that have everything to play for. But I actually like Arizona for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. Seattle, their defense is just awful, especially against the run. They actually ranked 30th in the NFL against the run over the course of the whole season. They haven't gotten any better lately. James Conner, I think he can find success against his bottom tier. Especially if they, and they found what they want to do against Philly. And they have a first-year coach. They have a jaded quarterback. They want to finish this season on a high note, and losing here would diminish beating the Eagles last week. But if you can go into the offseason, beating Philly, beating Seattle, eliminating Seattle for postseason consideration, that's a big win for Arizona. So I think they actually do have something to play for as a franchise. And then the other side, I am worried that Seattle could easily score 35 points as well. This might be a high-scoring game. But I'm still siding with Arizona at home. +3 is a big number. It actually went down to 2.5 for a little bit. It's back up to 3 now. So there's money coming in for both sides. It'll be interesting to see where this one lies, is at kickoff. But +3, that's a number I'm happy with.
Adam, would it be smart to wait to bet this game till closer to kickoff? I don't personally see it going down anymore in the Cardinals' favor. I do think there's a world where with the Seahawks playing with the season on the line, I could see a world where it gets bet up to 3.5. Even if it doesn't, I don't think it's going in the other direction. Would it be smart to wait until closer to kickoff in case you get a little more value?
Yep, for sure. I think that the general rule of thumb is if you like a favorite, jump on it now. If you like an underdog, wait, because the public generally backs favorites. So that number, when it gets closer to kickoff, usually it's in the direction of whoever's laying the points. So yeah, I think Arizona by kickoff might be 3.5.
Perfect. So yeah, it's another idea that we can maybe utilize. That half point could be profitable. One more game, Adam. I love it how you're taking 2 games with seemingly nothing to play for, though the Patriots, they personally have the Belichick to play for. Broncos and Raiders, the battle of the backups. We got Jared Stidham. We got Aiden O'Connell. We got 2 teams packing in, but they hate each other. Players individually, though, Antonio Pierce, look, he is trying to make his case to be the coach. And on the Broncos side, Sean Payton's building something, and these players are probably still playing to earn his trust and earn maybe roster spots for next year. So I think despite nothing to play for, I do believe there is something for each of these teams to play for. Break this game down for us.
Yep. You said it. Antonio Pierce, he wants to be this head coach, and I think the team wants him to be the head coach. They've really gotten behind him. The success hasn't necessarily been there, but they're playing hard. They just don't have the horses right now to compete against a lot of teams. And Denver, this was supposed to be a huge year for them, and it's kind of gone the opposite direction. They turned it around dramatically, and they want to finish on a high note as well. But I think Vegas run game can get going. Denver, 31st versus the run. That's not good. And Jared Stidham, he was serviceable last week against the Chargers, but you need to be more than serviceable when you're taking on the Chargers defense, and he was barely serviceable. So taking on a Raiders defense, which is really good at home, and they're gonna bring it against him, and they know Stidham. He's played for them, so as a former teammate. So I think they're going to get to him. I think Denver's offense is not going to do very much at all here, and to get to lay just 2.5 points on the home favorite. I think Vegas is the way to go, -2.5.
Yeah, you are so right about wanting to play for Pearson. It's been very tangible, the effect he's had on that team. Looks like Josh Jacobs is trending toward not playing, but Zamir White's in a good spot here because the Broncos, the one thing they can't do is they can't stop the run. And when there's Devontae Adams out there, how much attention can you really put to the run? So I love to see them dominate on the ground here, which should be fun. All right, Adam, tell everybody where they can find you and your work. It's getting to the off season here, so I know you do more than football.
Yes, bookies.com/picks for all the picks. And NBA is in full swing. Less so for me until starting next week. We'll get more on the NBA train, but all the picks for Week 18 are up and Bookie and on the socials. I forget my own handle at Bookies Adam. That's pretty easy to remember.
Absolutely is. Adam, it's been a great season with you. Thank you for shedding all the wisdom and advice on the gambling picks. People were able to profit from your knowledge. Great to be a teammate with you. Happy New Year to you and yours. Remember, everybody, you could catch this show. We're still going to go Saturday show with DFS for those who are playing. Sunday, I know a lot of you aren't in leagues. We'll still do the start sit stream, but that'll be Ask Anything. If you have a question about any game, any angle on it, I will be happy to go through that. It might be a short show, but we'll see where that goes. And then go to my X profile at Jim Coventry NFL next week, and I will give you an off-season schedule so you know when to find this show. For Adam Thompson, I'm Jim Coventry. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great day, and we will talk soon.